Tom has a really distinguished kind of resume here. He was director of marketing at RCA. Before that was sales and marketing at Noise International. He's worked with Dave Matthews, Three Doors Down, the Bee Gees, Sister Hazel, Verve Pipe, Real Big Fish, Flaw, Stroke 9, Goldfinger, Tonic, ZZ Top, Van Morrison, Robert Plant, and others in marketing and product management. So please welcome Tom Derr. So as I was kind of describing to Tom before we sat up here, our students are divided in some ways. A vast majority of them are musicians and would like to sell their music in some capacity. And then the other kind of percentage are ones that want to work on the other side, as you've done. Are you a musician yourself?
No.
No, okay. So how did you find your way into this career?
I started working in a record store selling 8-track tapes. I don't know how many of you know what an 8-track tape is, but we sold that in bongs. That's what I did when I was 15 years old.
What did you sell more of?
Bongs.
What is the thing that you could still sell today?
Bongs.
Yeah. They're class dismissed.
They're very profitable. Very, very profitable. And that was my first job. I was 15 years old. I worked in the store for 3 years and decided that's what I was going to do and pursued it since then.
Okay. So what was the segue from selling bongs to selling not bongs?
Went on to own my own store. I opened my own record store for about 4 years, and then started my first real record company job. I worked at A&M Records in New York. I worked in the mail room for 6 months, which was an experience. And today, you really can't start in the mail room because of the fact that most of the mail rooms are farmed out. Pitney Bowes does the mail room, and that's all contracted mail room. When I worked in the mail room, I did everything. I mean, it was a great spot to be in because I got to experience a wide variety of things. I got to know things that most of the executives didn't know what was going on because I was the one delivering things. I was the one picking stuff up from different places that someone shouldn't have known about or things like that, and a variety of things, which was a great experience. It got me to know a lot of people. And it was a really good start for me because it was a chance to experience a variety of the departments and really get a feel for which side of the business that I wanted to pursue. From there, I got a job at a label called Noise, which was a small German label that was based in New York. It was based on the 4th floor of a sweatshop in Chinatown in New York, which was always an experience to get to, always an experience to walk through Chinatown. That was also a great experience for me because not just was it a marketing job and a sales job, but because the staff was 3 people, you did everything from making the calls to the retailers to making the calls for this and that and packing packages and sweeping the floor and painting the walls and a lot of stuff that went very, very well to learn the variety of things to do. From there, I got the job as a product guy at RCA Records. I was there for 4.5 years. I had the privilege of working with the Dave Matthews Band, where I worked with them from the start. The first time I saw Dave play was in a bar in New York called the Wetlands, where there was more people on this stage than there were seeing Dave play. And the last time I saw Dave play was at the Meadowlands in New York, which was about 60,000 people. And that was an experience that I will always remember, being there from the growth, being there to not just to watch it grow, but to be involved. And to be involved with a very talented band and a very talented man and a very talented guy who's still the nicest guy you'll meet. He's still the same old guy. He's still the guy that would walk away from it tomorrow if that's what he had to do. He wasn't doing it for the cash. He wasn't doing it to be famous. He was doing it because he enjoyed it and always reminded people that he would walk away. And it was a thing that I took to heart when I moved on to Universal and worked there for almost 9 years and got fed up with the business the way it was and remembered back to what David said, that you can always walk away. It's not about it. And that's what I did. I was at Universal one day, walked into my boss, wanted to speak to her. She didn't have time. Came back the next day. I wanted to speak to her. She didn't have time. Came back the next day, finally had time. I spoke to her. I told her I quit, and I went home. And that was the end of that. And I took a year off to try to decide what I was going to do next and to try to figure out the right way to do it in my own mind. And I think what we've created, people have told me that it's the right thing, and bands have said it's the right thing.
This is Rock Ridge.
Rock Ridge, yes,
your,
correct.
Your new or how new is it?
It's almost two years now.
2 years, okay.
And it's developed into something that I'm very, very proud of. It's a lot of work, crazy stuff, but I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world right now, what I'm doing right now.
It's interesting that you kind of set up these two arcs. As I said, we've got students here that want to be musicians and want to work on the other side of the business. And the arc that you portrayed for Dave Matthews is parallel in some ways to your career arc, in that Dave was playing bars and everything, and you started at retail, and the trajectory is one of knowing the business all the way from every angle. And I think that it's this era of specialization, it's so important, especially in the record industry, to know how all the pieces work together. And it seems like, from what little I know about Rock Ridge, it's kind of a full service marketing. Is that maybe the best way to say it?
We like to view it as a services company for bands, because it's not just label. First off, the type of deals we do are licensing deals where the acts continue to own their art. We want the bands to continue to own their art. When you sign with a Columbia or Warner Brothers, they then own your art, and they will own your art for many, many years.
When you say art, you're inclusive of the music. And
we license it so that we have a partnership with the act, so that it's not a one-sided thing. We can only work as hard as the band works, and the band can only work as hard as we work. We don't make cash unless the art sells, and if the art sells, we make cash and the band makes cash. But the band continues to own the art, and if we part ways, the art goes with the band and doesn't stay with us. It's just a conscious choice that we made. And people always say, well, then you're not building catalog and you're not doing this. But it really is a thing that if the relationship works between the label, the company, and the band, catalog will remain because the band will stay. And if the band stays because the relationship is good, then it's going to work. If it doesn't work, and you have a piece of catalog where the band's no longer involved and has moved on, then it's just not going to work. Because there's bands that I'm working with now that had records out on bigger companies, and their records are being cut out by the big guys, so that you can't even go in and buy the record now, and the band can't get the record back because they don't own the rights, or they can't afford the rights back, and now their record, you can't even buy it, so their art is not even available to be bought, and it just ruins things. It really ruins things for the band. I think it ruins things for the business. It's crazy, and we made a conscious choice to do it this way, even though people said it wouldn't work, you couldn't do it, and we are doing it, and it does work.
So you kind of got fed up with the major label paradigm. You started your vision, which is somewhat of a reaction to the major label paradigm. Mm-hmm. What shifts? What beyond the term type of setup where there's... So who owns the master in this relationship? Is it
artist?
The artists own the master. They license it to you. Mm-hmm. What else is different about the way you're doing it than, say, the way Dave Matthews' label ATO is doing it?
ATO is probably a wrong example.
Okay, what's different than Epic?
Because they are doing it somewhat where there's patience involved. The big guys are looking at a window when your record is ready to come out. You have a 6 to 8 week window to make a record work. If it doesn't work in that 6 to 8 weeks, for the most part, the majority of acts, you're done. You're done. So you could be signed, released, and dropped within a 14-month period, literally. With us, it's not about the first 6 to 8 weeks. It's about the first 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 months. And it's about getting back to the way the record business was, where bands and acts have the ability to create consistently and not put a record out every 2 or 3 years. We want bands who are going to release records every year, or do digital releases where you release some B-sides in the middle of the year, or some live stuff, or some extended mixes, or some kind of thing, just to create the catalog and to create what's going on, not just for the band and their outlet for their art, but for the fans to continue to get new stuff from a band that they really like. Instead of waiting 2 years to find out what's new from the band, they can constantly be able to go out and experience the band in new ways depending on what the bands are doing. We have a band that they went out, they made a disc, they came back, we put out the B-sides, they come back, put out a new thing, and now we're putting out a digital release in May which is 4 or 5 songs from those 2 records totally redone by just one guy in the band, where he decided he wanted to do a country thing, that country song of that, and a blues song of that, and just different tracks that he really liked from the record to redo it, and he did it himself, and we're putting it out just to, again, feed the fan base, to keep the fan base alive, because if you wait 2 years, 3 years, by the time that new thing comes out, you're starting from zero again, and you're competing for people's time, you're competing for people's money, and you're competing for people's patience. And in today's world, as you all know, it's very quick. Everything comes and goes, disposable songs, and it's really about developing where people want to know about the acts. Most acts today, people don't care about. They don't care anything about them. Beatles, when you look at them, people want to know what their favorite song was, what their favorite color, what their favorite food. And today, you don't really get time to find out about these bands. You don't get time to experience what they're about, and not just on a personal side, but from an art side. They don't get a chance to develop their art because they're here and gone tomorrow. And then the bands that do succeed, they're forced into a thing of making hits. And then you don't really see their art because they're forced to write a hit song, or they're forced to write that last song again. And that's not reality. You can't write the same hit again. But people believe that you can, and the companies believe you can, because they have to generate enough cash to survive.
So what specific kind of strategies are you doing to build this kind of long-term community around these bands to make fans care about what is the favorite color of the lead singer, or whatever? I mean, how specifically, because that's the goal, right? I mean,
yes.
That's the goal for you. That's the goal for Warner Brothers. That's what, they've got different economic drivers, but it's still
yes.
the goal. They want the Beatles in the same way you do. You don't have shareholders, I suppose, breathing down your neck. But what strategy? I mean, how do you do this?
Is taking the act to the people. Is getting the band touring. Is the internet is a huge tool for us because it's free or cheap, and it allows the bands to interact directly with their fans. It allows the bands to get directly to the fans without having to go through radio or through a program director who's going to have all these rules about what he can play and what he can't play. It allows visibility to grow at a faster pace. It then allows the fans themselves to pass on what they like to their friends. They don't depend on someone else. They can pass that track along directly. You can hear things immediately. You don't have to wait. When you're looking through a magazine, you read a piece, or you see an ad, you go, I have to check that out. When you're on the net, you can hear it, you can react to it, you can experience it.
But how do you drive people? I mean, MySpace has 250,000 bands on it. I'd say 249.99 of those have never been heard by anybody. Yes. They just released their first MySpace Volume 1 records, which has been a complete and utter failure. So the tools themselves aren't, it's how you use the tools.
Exactly.
I guess what I'm trying to get at is what is it you're doing?
MySpace,
every band has access to the net.
MySpace to us is a necessary thing. It's not a thing we do. If my partner was here, he'd tell you MySpace can go fuck themselves. Because he just believes it's a bunch of bullshit. Because you can control what goes on there, whether you believe it or not. If you go to a band that has 25,000 friends and their songs have been played 25 times each, there's a problem there. Something's not connecting. We are hired by bigger labels to create friends so that their bands look bigger than they are on MySpace. And why the big guys are all talking about MySpace and creating friends and whatever the hell they're doing, we're going to all the smaller sites that people are going to discover new stuff, because the big guys can't do it because they have too many rules, they have too much red tape, too much control. And these sites like the various music sites that are on the net, the only way they survive is to have content, and we can supply them with tons of content. So we get the visibility that Columbia or Warner Brothers doesn't get, because by the time Columbia decides that they are going to do it, it's already too late, and that band's been dropped, and the band's being signed by us because they've been dropped, and then we're going to go do the right thing for them. And then we go ahead and work with them and supply them with content, supply them with new stuff, and not just the smaller sites, but the bigger sites too, because of the red tape. We do independent marketing, not just for our own acts, but for bigger label acts. And those big labels pay us to do the things that they can't do, because there's too much red tape for them to do the things that we can do.
Are you talking about hitting the blogs and
Even
whatever
videos,
community.
videos. Like if you go to a Sony label, they have a deal with either AOL or Yahoo, where only their videos are seen there. They give us a video and we go place it all around the net.
I see.
But the guy hiring us can't do it because he will get in trouble and the lawyers will go nuts.
Sure.
And there's all kinds of red tape, but we don't have that. And it's especially that with our own acts, we have the ability to spread it more, to spread it wider, and to spread it quicker.
So I would assume then with your bands, there's something provisionally in the contract that allows for you to take their masters and license or place
Yes.
them wherever you can, including giving them away. I mean, people
99% of our bands allow us to give stuff away on the net.
Okay.
People who are afraid of giving away stuff on the net or giving away a song only have a song. It's the bands that have more than one song that are not afraid of it. The bigger guys are afraid that you guys are going to find out that the rest of the record sucks and that you'll only want to go to iTunes and buy that one song, which is probably what a lot of you do because you find out the rest of the record are 11 songs that probably shouldn't have made it onto a record.
So a band from Loyola calls you up and says, we want you to...
Calls me at home?
Calls you at home late at night, says, you got any more of those bongs left? And wants you to...
They're all sold out.
They're all sold out, so you say. Wants to hire you, right? And I don't know that you hypothetically, like this would be something you... What do you do? I mean, what's stage one?
To hire us
to market
or to sign to the label.
Either one.
There's two different
I'm
things.
trying to get at, okay, well, if someone,
Like
if you sign someone to the label,
Yes.
what I'm trying to get at is for these students to walk away with some advice so that they say, okay, well, this is what this guy who's living this and doing it would do with music to start building this community, to start building it so that people would care. And I mean, that's the holy grail. If any of us could do that magically, But you have some insight into this, and I guess I'm just trying to pick your brain a little bit.
For a band that just got signed?
No, for a band that's not yet signed.
Not yet signed.
For a band that's trying to
Okay.
build a fund, because I don't think anyone here is signed to a major. Maybe they are. But
If you are, run.
oh, jeez.
Get a check and then run.
Yeah, get the check and then
Get the check.
life-changing check. So, I mean, what should bands be doing, or what do you do for?
First off, it comes down to a song, and not just one. It's multitude of songs, because we can create smoke and mirrors. We can create the vibe that you may want or the vibe you may not want. We can create the visibility. We can create all that stuff, but without the songs, you're just gonna spin your wheels. Yeah. So that's the real first step, is to really either feel the songs, get the songs, or if the songs aren't there completely, there's people that we work with who will hear a thing and go, okay, they have it. You can't have a 7.5-minute song with no chorus, but they have the feel for it, and they have the talent, and they have this or they have that, or just the vibe about it.
And how do they know if they have the song? I mean, everybody thinks that they're Jimmy Page.
That becomes what we're trying to build. Whether you're creative or you're talented or not, don't base on someone like us saying we don't want to work with you right now, because nothing should stop you from continuing to create your art. There's just things that we know we can work with. There's things that we know we can't work with, and then there's things we have to make a choice about bands too. There may be a great band who has great songs, but if they can't tour because 2 of the guys are married and the one guy has four kids and needs a full-time job, which we look at. We look at that with bands. We say, okay, do you all hold full-time jobs? Can you tour? I'm not here to pay your rent. I'm not here to pay your phone bill. I'm here to sell discs. I'm here to sell art. So if you guys can't, if the band can't go out and tour, we really look at that. We have those talks with the band prior, and bands will lie their way. Oh no, we'll go out and tour. We'll do this. We'll do that. It never takes place because they're too tied down to life itself.
If you've got an unlimited budget, so do you pay tour support for the bands you work with? You give bands advances, personal advances?
No, we do no advances.
Okay, so
no
you're not going to sign a band that basically isn't on the road already, given that.
Not necessarily. It can be a band who we can put on the road. Okay. We have plenty of people to work with to get you on the road. Bands have to know how to survive on a dime, and when I mean a dime, I mean a dime. It's not about us feeding the band money to stay out on tour. The bands have to pay their dues. They have to do their work. There's too many bands who get signed to a big label, and I've experienced this, where they get signed and they think their job is done, and they're going to sit back and wait for the cash to roll in. And then when they go on tour, they want to be in the bus, and they want to have the road crew of 25, and they want to stay at the Ritz and all that stuff. That's not reality. That's just not reality. You have to be able to pay the dues, work it out, get on the road, tour, develop with your fans, and work it. And then we develop it by adding to the things that the bands can't do, by getting records into stores, by getting it online, by getting it into the right places, by working the press angles.
So all of the things that you said before, you kind of said, and then you get involved, the tour and all that. I mean, that's something bands should be doing, or should bands be doing that, in your opinion, before they get a deal?
Absolutely. Okay. Most of the bands that we get involved with initially are booking themselves. I'm sure most of you guys who are in bands book your own shows. And then when you get signed, you think you're going to have a booking guy. The booking guy is the hardest thing you're ever going to do.
A record deal.
It's the hardest thing. Harder than a deal, harder than a lawyer, harder than making cash, finding a booking guy. Because most of the booking guys who are good don't have time, and the guys who are bad have too much time. Mm-hmm. So for bands to continue to book themselves is the right thing to do. It's a lot of work, and bands complain. But what we try to do with our acts is have the bands help one another with either connections to clubs, connections to promoters. Hey, why don't you come out west and tour with us, and we'll come back east and tour with you, so that we can make enough money on the West Coast so that we can tour the East Coast with you, so that you can then develop some more markets, as opposed to just going out and playing the West all the time. Sure. And the other thing bands do when they get signed is they initially say, I want to go out and tour the U.S. Well, if you can't sell stuff in your own backyard, what makes you think you're going to sell records in Seattle? It's just not going to work. Like we had met with a band one night, and their goal was to be the biggest band in New York, and they couldn't define what that was, and neither could I. So I don't know what I was going to do to help them get to that point. And it was being set up to fail, because if we didn't make them the biggest band in New York based on what they thought, then we failed. Mm-hmm. But they couldn't define what that was, so we had already failed before we began. So it's a band that we can't deal with. We just can't. It's just not reality.
So what are you looking for in a band? I mean, besides the songs obviously have to be there. I think we've identified that they have to have been touring at least regionally. Is that it? I mean, is it? What else is there?
It really comes down to band to band. Some bands have a really good vibe about them. Like there's bands that I'll get on the phone with and speak to, and you know right then whether it's going to work or not. Sure. You just know, just by the way they talk, by the way they act, by the fact that they don't talk. And there's bands you get on the phone and you're like, and they don't say a thing because they have no questions, they have no comments, right. They have no vision for themselves, and that's the worst thing. One thing that a band's got to come with is what they're about, what they're going to do, what they want to do, and what they have to do. Those are all different things, and if bands come to us without that, we can make it up. Trust me, I've made it up plenty of times.
Made up the story.
Made up the story, made up the ideas, but eventually it's going to fall apart. It's like telling a lie and then telling another lie, and eventually you're going to get caught up in the fact that you don't even know what's going on and what is real and what is not real. But then it's going to come back to the songs. And most of the time when you're lying about it, you're usually lying about the art as well. Okay, so we've talked a lot about the one side, the bands, and what they need to be doing. What if somebody wants to be you? You know, how do you get a hat? What someone needs to do to get to your stage, be it working at a label and eventually starting your own, or get into any way you can. Don't think that a job is below you. Don't think that money is below you. You're going to have to struggle. You're going to have to try. I'm sure there's going to be someone in this room who's going to step into shit and get the greatest job in the world, because that's just the way it is. But for the most part, you're going to have to pay your dues. People that are going to be on top of you are going to look to see what you've done and what you've tried and what you've done, and because they know that their job is what you want. Mm-hmm. So they're going to protect themselves a bit, because in this day and age, the record companies continue to shrink, and all the people who have the jobs are more worried about you taking their job than they are about hiring you. And they may end up hiring someone that they can control and that they can push around, as opposed to someone who can take their job. Now, it used to be that the goal was in the business was to hire someone that you know could take your job. But because jobs have shrunk, that doesn't go down. So you really have to pay your dues, prove yourself, and prove yourself to a variety of people, and learn as much as you can. I mean, there were things that I learned way back, and like, why am I talking to this lawyer? Why am I knowing what he does? And now all the deals that we do, I do all the deals. I write the deals, negotiate the deals, everything. We don't use a lawyer, because I don't like lawyers. If there's a lawyer in the room, sorry. But they are in the business to make cash, and we don't pay bands up front, so they don't make any cash from us. Or they're in the business to charge bands by how long they take to negotiate a deal, because they charge $400, $500 an hour, and I don't negotiate well. So they're going to get about $200 because I'm not going to negotiate for weeks and days. I'll just walk away because we have the ability to. We have enough bands coming to us. We have enough pipeline that we can do that. We do the deals our way, and the deals are fair. We let the bands own art, which is a major thing, and that's the clout that we carry, is that we allow the bands to continue to own their art. So the rest of the points, when bands want to negotiate from 17% to 16%, we don't have time for that. We're talking about 1% that could end up being, over the term of a deal, $300. I mean, come on, it's just not worth the time of day to deal with that. But a lawyer does that because they feel that they can go back to the band and say, hey, I got it from 17 to 16. I did a great job for you. Now here's my bill for $4,000, and the band goes, well, we don't have $4,000.
Right.
And then they come to us to pay it. Yeah. Then they call us to pay it, and I'm not paying it because why would I pay a lawyer to negotiate against me
yourself.
When I'm not going to negotiate?
Been there, yeah. So one of the things you said that I thought was interesting is did you say you ran a record store, or you worked? Okay. I mean, when I was hiring people, I always looked for people that had retail experience, and I think it's so important even today in the download area, because they're right there at the customer. They're doing battle every day.
You're seeing what people want and don't want,
and getting to know the customer.
Many times you have people come in. Did you ever work with retail?
Oh yeah.
You have people come in and sing to you?
Well, they come in and sing, but my best trick was that as soon as they walked through the door, I could know what they wanted before they even had to say it. So I would just shepherd them right to the Edie Brickell record, and wouldn't even. I'm dating myself, but that's
8-track.
When I was saying it wasn't 8-track, okay. But so retail is still important.
Absolutely.
Maybe more interestingly to the audience, where is the industry going? Do you think at this point?
Retail will always exist because people always want to shop. People want, when people first started shopping online, everyone said, "Oh, you'll buy all your clothes online. You'll buy all your this online." People still want to shop. Right. Pet food online, whatever. You still want to go out and shop. It's still social. It's still an experience. People still say, "Hey, let's go shopping. Let's go to the mall. Let's do this." So you're still going to have that. But the great thing about digital-wise is the instant gratification of things, and the way that before bands would call from the road and go, "We're in shithole here, and people can't buy our disc here." Now when they do that, I'll go, "What are you, insane?" I mean, they can go to Starbucks, get on a computer, and buy the record. Right. And you can buy download. You can buy BestBuy.com. Walmart.com, whatever you want to do.
So is your model the future then, not owning equity in the copyrights and kind of term licenses and creating you said you do booking on some, so it's kind of like a full service thing.
We don't do booking.
Oh, you don't?
That's
okay.
illegal for us to do. No, that's illegal. We can help you find someone.
But you can't be both an agent and a manager.
That's illegal.
Right. Okay. But so
we do nothing illegal.
No, I know you're just practicing law without a license as a lawyer. But,
it's not law.
Something resembling
contracts
law.
are only worth what they're written on, so you can sue for whatever you want. So, and we haven't been sued yet, so we're not a real company yet.
That's right. That's right.
You're not real till you're sued.
That's right. So, what's the best piece of advice you've ever gotten?
Don't burn a bridge, no matter what a person does to you. And trust me, I've had strange things done, but don't burn a bridge. The business is too small. No matter how big you think it is, and even worldwide, it's small. And if you burn a bridge, most of the time it's going to come back to bite you in the ass, because that person's going to show up again, whether it's on your side or on the other side, and you're going to feel like an ass. Just don't burn a bridge. You can yell and scream behind the door, but once you're, "Hey, how's it going? Nice guy."
Well, speaking of that, how important is publishing to your business?
It's a part that we want to develop too, but it's not a part we're dealing with right now. The bands pretty much own their own publishing, and I would suggest that most bands that don't need cash keep your publishing. That's where the money is.
But
that's where the big money is.
You've got master usage, so are you out going to trying to exploit the masters to film or TVs or whatever?
We have a person on staff who services all of our stuff to TV and film and commercials and video games. And since we don't own the rights, we get a piece of what the placement is based on our deals with the bands.
Best part of working in the industry?
It's fun. And it has to be fun. As soon as it doesn't become fun, get out, because then we're not trying to cure a disease, we're not trying to save lives here. We're having fun, and it's art, and you're supposed to experience it. You're supposed to enjoy it. As soon as it becomes serious, and that's when I quit. I was just like, you guys are out of your minds. I'm out of here.
What's the skill that you think you got to have to succeed?
Know what's bullshit and know what's not. That's why when I go back to what I said about learning about everything you can, the different departments, so that when the guy from the promotion department comes in and starts giving you the shtick, you already know he's lying through his teeth, and then you can figure out what reality is.
Has he opened his mouth?
They don't have to. No, they don't have to. Radio guys don't.
Promotion guys.
But just to know what's crap and what's not. That's very important, because you can get caught up in things. MySpace.com. You can get caught up. They have 10,000 friends. Well, yeah, they have 10,000 friends because they paid us $3,000 a month to create 10,000.
Is that really? I mean, that's part of your business.
Yeah.
So if they come to you and they say, "Go get us a big profile, a good friend."
MySpace. Yeah.
And how do you do it? You sit around and just.
I don't know. The staff does that. I don't even know.
You don't want to know. Yeah, that's so interesting.
No, I don't want to know.
No, yeah.
No, but that's just part of the world. That's like
I know.
radio. It's like you start getting spins and you pay some guy to call the station 45 times a day. It's the same thing. And then there was a time in the world, which probably still exists, where you can pay people to scan the records in stores that don't sell.
Sure.
And that was done big time. There's many acts
who
real started their career.
Is going to stores that scan like 10 to 20 to 1 and paying somebody to do that. You know, you go to like Omaha, where a sound scan, or Homer's, where they'll do it's 20 sale to 1 and just get some dude to scan it 50 times. You know?
That's done.
Oh yeah.
I think people still pay to do it. It's crazy.
So what would you do differently looking back on your career?
I probably wouldn't have left RCA when I did.
Really?
I probably should have wrote out the Dave Matthews thing a bit longer. Yeah. It's always hard to leave a job like that when you, quote unquote, become attached to an act or become attached to a project, because you spend so much time doing it that you become part of that world. And what's great about that world is that I'm still a part of that world as a friend. I'm not a part of that world as a job, but I'm part of that world as a friend, which I cherish to this day. It's just like friends of mine that I know that were involved when the police when the police broke, and they know what it was like to break the police. Or a friend of mine who worked the U2 when the war record broke. Those are things you always cherish, and those are always the things that are hard to give up, and the things that you come to regret a bit because you could have wrote it out. But I mean, if that's my biggest concern right now,
you've done real well.
I'm fine.
Really.
And I also regret giving up the big check, but that was all right.
Well, it is. I mean, you take. I mean, doing anything entrepreneurial is a life-changing type of.
You give up the security.
You give up the security.
Yeah.
So what's the upside? I mean, what's the
freedom?
Freedom.
Yeah. To come here today.
Yeah.
To go to Baton Rouge tonight. I don't know why though. That's fun. But I'm going to Baton Rouge tonight.
Yeah. But. Questions from you all? I don't know what our time frame is. Yes.
How did you come to work with Robert Plant?
He had a solo record called Dreamland, and I was assigned that as a project. And surprisingly, he's a very nice guy. He's a wonderful guy. And too hands-on to a certain point. He would call me at home. He would call me on the train when I'm commuting in. He would call me when I was at my son's game, or he would just call me all the time to want to know what's going on here. It was great because Robert Plant's calling you, and it was pretty fucking cool. Coolest thing with Plant, we were at the Plaza one day, and we were in his suite, and I had to ask him to give me some quotes for another project that was going on. And he goes, that's really not what I'm about. The quotes wouldn't mean a thing. But let me make a call. And he calls Jimmy Page on the phone. I said, can I get that number? But it was pretty cool. There I'm sitting with Plant, and he's calling Jimmy Page. So that's pretty cool. I didn't get the number.
Mm. Other question, Sean?
Do you pick like fairly strictly for which bands you work with as far as like genre or anything? Like that you try to create sort of an image for the company that way, or
That's the way it is right now, but we're going to expand. We're
it's not like a strict thing? Just happens.
Yeah, I mean, if there's a band that fits, like right now we're talking to a country band out of Texas. He's a 21-year-old kid from the University of Texas. He writes great songs. And he's got a great following, and it's something we're going to pursue. It's not that I know that market well, but I know enough people that I can learn that marketplace, and it makes sense for us. And if he can sell stuff, then I'm thrilled about that as well. So.
How would you find a 21-year-old kid at the University of Texas? I mean, how did he come on your radar?
My son found it.
Huh?
Yeah,
Oh.
MySpace.
On MySpace?
Yeah.
Now,
He said, "This is cool."
you sure they hadn't hired you to...
Well, first thing that I did was when my son brought it to me was
Are we working this?
is that we went out and checked it out. We found out what was real.
Okay.
Not just speaking to the band, but speaking to the fans and finding out if these people really knew the band.
Wow.
And it turns out that most of their friends have seen them six, seven times, have bought the record. We investigated. Because many times we go to investigate a band on MySpace or just the net in general. And a lot of it's made up. A lot of it's smoke and mirrors. And you find out that these guys are pretty good liars.
You going to give your son points on the record?
He's already signed 2 bands, and yes, he does
He's
have
got
points.
on it?
Yes.
Good, okay. Other questions? Sean has a follow-up. Yeah.
I just wondered who that was.
All right.
I'm not going to tell you because you're going to sign him. I haven't signed him yet.
Yeah.
Sorry.
There's your first real lesson. Yeah.
Masters are owned by them. You will find out that that is huge, and more beyond that you can imagine right now is to own your art, because if you don't, when you leave that company in 3 years, you can say, man, I'd really like to redo that song, and you can't.
So you don't have
own it.
re-record restrictions either?
No, I'm saying we do.
Uh-huh.
We during the license. I'm saying if you're with another company.
No, I know
you
that, but
can't
a band
re-record
on your label could re-record after they leave with you immediately?
Yes. Oh yeah, yeah.
But you
But it
can't,
can
you
be
can't
real.
get people out to the shows. I mean, is that part of your thing? You can't, I mean, you know what I mean? Like, I did A&R for a long time, and it was
That's up to the manager. If they hire us, we're there to create the visibility,
Online.
to create the want to go
Uh-huh.
to a show. We can also release digital stuff as well in conjunction with the visibility, so that you can start to show sales through Napster and Reel and stuff like that as well.
Yeah, but not sound scan, and you can't get people out to the show. I mean, it's
We
just-
can sound scan product that shows.
through show, okay.
Yeah, we can do that too for bands,
Gotcha.
and we do that.
So, other than obviously saving on some serious legal fees and having a pretty intense work ethic, how do you go about staying on top with your marketing a band for 14 months? You said you're selling to niche markets, you're releasing exclusive kind of extra content, B-side stuff like that. What else do you do to stay financially alive during that time?
What do you mean with that? With one particular act, or?
One particular act, how is that act going to start recouping, start making money? I mean, this sounds kind of like a dream label. Most labels have that 6 weeks after the release because
Yeah.
they got to be making money.
Well, we're in a position where we don't need to make $48 million in week 1. If I made $48 in week 1, you wouldn't see me. I'd be gone. But we have time, and we have the ability to work with bands and to develop them. To go from, okay, right now it's just about touring. Next step is about, okay, let's develop a press profile. Then let's develop touring outside of that world. Then let's maybe take it to satellite radio and develop it there. Let's take it to internet radio. It's constantly growing it. It's not just doing the same thing for 14 months. If you're doing the same thing for 14 months, you're right, you're not going to make any money, and you're not going to sell any discs. Because the bottom line is to sell the art, and the only way to do it is to sell the art, spread the word. So you have to continue to grow the fan base. And it's just different things that get done. You may start with the internet stuff, with all the lower level stuff, visibility, gain some cred, and then take it to the next level of sites, or take it to the next level of what's going to get done. And then what you're doing by releasing B-sides and stuff like that is continuing to build the base. You're continuing to feed your base of fans while you continue to grow beyond that. Bands sometimes forget about their base, and they let the base go, and what happens when your base leaves? You fall apart, and then there's no one to go to, so that when you release the next record, you have some place to start. You have your base to start with. So you can't let that base deteriorate, or you'll fall apart. There's too many bands that forget about that. They go on, and then they don't know why they can't sell their next record because they forgot about their fans. You know, they went on to sell 14 million records, and the next record sells 14 because their fans went away. Their fans found something else to do. You didn't serve them. You didn't create for them. And if it takes you 3 years to put another record out, they're gone. They're gone on to something else. So it's not just doing one thing. It's the growth of the project and the growth of the band. Can the band pull it off?
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but what you're doing is in some ways kind of what labels used to do.
Yes,
you know?
absolutely.
I mean, it's like it's just amazing that we look at this as like, wow, what a novel idea.
It's
you
not.
know, it's really part and parcel to why I think the industry's in such a sad state of affairs.
Well, look at stuff. Springsteen wouldn't exist.
Of
Dylan
course.
wouldn't exist.
You too wouldn't exist. I mean,
Nope.
none of these bands
None of
were
those bands would
overnight
exist.
kind of
Nope.
6-week type.
You think
success.
Springsteen's first record would have been a hit? He would have been pumping gas in Red Bank.
Other questions? Yeah. Good question.
One thing that I did learn is start with more cash than you think you need, for one. Although we did not, and we have benefited from that, the fact that we don't have shareholders breathing down our throat. It gives us the freedom. And get involved with the right people. Get involved with the minimum amount of people who can do the most work. Because I see people starting up labels who have a staff of 12 and they haven't put a record out yet. That's a problem. Because your monthly nut will kill you. You don't need the all office space on Park Avenue in New York. You don't need the limos to the plane. You don't need first class. You have to really put it together, knowing that every dime that comes in, 8 cents is going to go right back out. So you have to really watch what you're doing. So I mean, I don't know if that responds to what you're saying, but I think it's the people, and my gut would say you find more cash than you think you're going to need, because you'll end up needing it somewhere. It's a struggle, but again, it's freedom and control.
Absolutely right.
What was the name of your company again?
rockridgemusic.com.
He's Googling it right now. Yeah. Okay, well, I'm sorry, Lucy.
What is the size of spaces of different artists? Does it vary, or do you have an ideal size
For the bass? For the bass for the band?
Yes.
Some of the bands have zero bass when we start with them, but it depends. I mean, it depends on why we sign the band. Some bands, there's a band that we just signed that I hope their record sucks. I mean, it just sucks. But people go to see them live. I mean, they draw 400, 500 people a night. I have no idea why, but they tour, and they tour strong. I couldn't even get through the first part of the record.
You've signed Fish.
No. I would take Fish, but I mean, the record sucks, but they have a nice touring base. Good guys, smart guys, they know what they're doing.
So your hope there is that they have a fan base, they'll
Yes.
build it, and then they'll eventually make a great record.
Or we'll help them make a great record
You're
too,
helping.
so that's a
Sure.
different thing too.
Sure.
I mean, the bass can be zero, the bass can be 50,000. That's just part of what we deal with to make a decision to deal with a band or not. Once we have a plan, we'll have a goal. Because one of the worst things that is done is labels will pick a date. We're going to put the record out on this date, and then they let the date dictate the planning. The planning should dictate the date. As soon as you let the date dictate the plan, you're dead. Then you start doing things you wouldn't do. You start spending cash you wouldn't spend. You start doing things in a shorter period of time. You don't allow things to grow correctly. You have to let the planning dictate the date or the goal. Because if you just say, okay, I want to sell 10,000 records, well, I could say that every day of the week, and it sounds really good, and sometimes I do say it depending on who I'm speaking to. But for the most part, I can't think that way. I have to think about what am I going to do to get to this step and then this step. and this date and that date, because bands always say, oh, we have to have the record out by this date. Our fans can't wait. I'm sorry to say the only one waiting for that record is you. Nobody else is waiting for it. Everyone else is going to school or going out to eat or playing video games. Well, you have to make them want that record. And if the fans want it now, you got to make them want it more, so that they're telling their friends about it, so that their 4 friends then want that record. So you have to be able to plan correctly and not pick a date and say, oh, we have to have it out then, which I've done when I work for the big guys. Sure. Like this record's got to come out on this day because we need the billing for that month. Sure. And that record would come out, and that record could be dead before it comes out. The band could be dropped before the record comes out.
I want to thank you so much.
Thank you.